Welcome back, everybody. As you probably guessed, we are going over this optic right here that you see in my hands and that you've seen on several different weapons in the intro. This is the Primary Arms 1 Power Prism Cyclops. This is the Gen 2 version of it. For those that are unaware, this is the Gen 1 version of it. I'm a huge fan of the Gen 1 version. However, there was one big complaint about this guy here, and it was that for some folks, for whatever reason, they had a hard time seeing the actual reticle itself, which is an ACSS reticle, which we'll get into here in just a second. And on the Gen 2, it is larger. So they fixed that for the vast majority of folks. That said, I actually think the majority of people who couldn't see or had trouble seeing the Gen 1 just weren't working the diopter correctly, but that's just a hunch. Anyway, let's get up close and personal here on this optic, go over the details of it, and at the end, I suppose we'll wrap it up with what I think of it overall. I apologize for the lighting, guys, but for the last 4 hours, when I normally would film with better lighting, natural lighting of course, there were lawnmowers going all around me, and it's one of those sounds you just can't filter out, unfortunately. But let's get into the details there on the optic. And the first thing you're probably going to notice here with these two configurations is that there are a number of ways to set this optic up. This one here has the high mount interface with the cantilever, and there's actually 8 different ways total to do so, but it takes the ACOG mini base, which are very popular. There's a lot of them out there. Obviously we have these 2 screws there that really are the interface, and the third one there, and you can see how it's set up here. All the hardware to mount it in any of the different 8 configurations that you see on your screen do ship with it. And additionally, one thing I really like about it is that all of the screws that ship with it come with Loctite pre-installed on them, which is huge. There are high-end optics that don't have that feature, so I do really like it. And one of the things to sort of just kind of look at here versus the old 1X in terms of the body size, obviously it's smaller and it's more lightweight. I believe it's 5.6 ounces for just the optic itself, and then the weight overall will change depending on the spacers that you choose to use. But again, much smaller, sleeker, more lightweight. On this side here, we do have our battery compartment. It does take a very common battery. It's a CR2032, I believe. And we have a bunch of different settings there for illumination. We have the 0 there that we are on now. And then we have 3 different night vision modes, which do work. You can shoot passively through this just fine because of the 1X nature of it. And then if you go to 13, it is absolutely, without question, daylight bright. I know that's something that people always ask about, and my hands are sweaty. Having a hard time kind of rotating through here. Let me grab my shirt and do so off camera and put it on 13 for you guys. And there you go. I'm not sure if the camera's picking it up, but I can assure you, regardless of the lighting conditions you're in, even if you're out in a bright desert sun, it is daylight bright. And the actual battery life on it is really good as well. The battery life on the medium setting is 29,000 hours, so that's like over 3 years. So it also has a shake awake feature, so the battery life is really longer than that. So after a given amount of time, it shuts itself off, and as soon as there's the slightest movement to it, it comes right on back on. So very good in terms of that. Our adjustment here is on our diopter is a little bit tough to deal with. Again, my hands are sweaty out here in the sun. Grab a shirt here and just kind of rotate it out. And it rotates out a good bit. And like I mentioned earlier, one of the reasons I think a lot of folks had some issues, quote unquote, seeing the reticle on the early one is because they were not adjusting their diopters to their eyes. Everybody's eye is different, and there is a lot of difference between where we have our diopter now and all the way in, right? So it's just gonna look very different to your eye when you're looking through it, and everybody's different. Gives you a lot of room to play with, to set it up to how you like it for what you see with your eye, because everybody's eye, again, different. The adjustments for windage and elevation, it's gonna be the only con I'm gonna give this thing. They are 1 MOA clicks. They're very tactile, very audible, which is good, but 1 MOA is pretty coarse. The average for most of your red dots out there is gonna be half MOA, and I really do wish this had half MOA, but it doesn't. So there is that. I've heard rumors that there may be a version of that coming out in the future. They may rectify that, but for right now, it doesn't have it. And another feature there is that it is threaded up front. I'm not sure if that's picking up there in the light, but it is threaded right there. So that way, if you want to run an anti-reflective device, you can do so. You can thread it in there, and that way you're going to minimize the chance of the enemy seeing your signature from the front. those are the up close and personal details on the optic itself. So a few things to go over. Number one is prisms, right? What is a prism? I'm sure some of you guys don't know that. And a prism optic is basically, it uses prism style glass, as the name indicates, which is a very durable, very dense type of glass. And the benefits of that is durability. Durability is off the charts with prisms. The former generation, the Gen 1 prism, has been in the bottom of this lake for literally 30 days. I pulled it out. If you guys haven't watched that video, you can check it out. I pulled it out. It worked just fine. It held zero. All the nitrogen purging held, all of those sorts of things. And it submerged, again, about 15 feet of water for 30 days. So it's durable, bomb-proof stuff. This one here has been tested for 17,000 rounds on a SCAR 17 and had zero issues with it at all. Obviously, many of you may know SCAR 17s are very difficult on optics, but again, Prism optics are about as bomb-proof as they get. And if you're talking about you want a sort of like end of days one power optic, then this probably is one I would look at, particularly because it has that etched reticle. It has a long battery life like we already talked about, but the etched reticle is always visible no matter what. So me personally, I almost never use the illumination on these. I just leave them off because the etched reticle is plenty, plenty for me to use. And in fact, for me, it looks a little bit sharper as well. And that ACSS reticle is super useful when going out to distance versus a red dot. So real quickly, it has the ability to range someone who's 5'10" or range them at their shoulders with the little dashes that are down below. I've gone over the ACSS reticle in detail. Obviously, it has a chevron for your holdovers as well in multiple different calibers, as you probably see here on your screen. It's just, in my opinion, the ACSS reticles are the best combat or DMR type of reticles out there on the market, period. I've shot a lot of them. There's other good ones, but the ACSS system is just the best, in my opinion. Period. There's a reason that Trigicon uses them, and there's a reason other companies use them besides Primary Arms. So excellent, fantastic reticle, which is definitely something that it has going for it. That adjustable diopter, letting it be set up for your eyes is also something that it has going for it, because a lot of guys with red dots have astigmatism and see blooming and those sorts of things. You're not going to see that with this optic, so that is good as well. The eye relief is fantastic on it. So basically, they quote something like 3 inches or something like that, but that's not exactly accurate in my opinion. I actually ran this on an Ultimac. I don't know if I have footage of that, but I did when I first got it in months ago, and I could see it out there on Ultimac on an AK. So basically, let's kind of look through it. So that is probably too close because I'm kind of seeing the edges of the interior of the optic, and then sort of work it out, work it out, work it out, work it out. I'm getting some shadowing right about there, but I still can use it just right about there is when I'm losing it. But honestly, I can still see it pretty well. You're just losing the edges. So, I mean, the eye relief is off the charts. The eye box is very forgiving as well. I can still see just fine on the reticle over here, and I'm way off. I can still see just fine on the reticle there. So it has a lot going for it in terms of eye relief. Eye box, is it as good as a red dot? Probably not. Red dots are the king of those two things. So it's very, very close though if you want a prism style optic. Of course, one thing that we always have to talk about is going to be price point. Right now, these are up for pre-order at $249. My link should get you a free anti-reflective device as well. There'll be a link either in the video description or a link to a video with a link in the video description, because YouTube's rules, it is what it is. But all in all, guys, I think it's a fantastic optic. I will be using these for a long time to come. If you guys watch the channel regularly, you know I use the 1X Gen 1 version all the time on a myriad of different guns, and now that this thing's out, this will go in the mix as well. Again, just super durable. You don't have to worry about it. The zero's not going to move on you. You can drop it and nothing's going to happen. It's just a durable bomb-proof optic that even if your battery's dead or whatever, it still works no matter what. So I'm a fan. The only thing I don't like, again, is that 1 MOA adjustment for the windage and elevation. But other than that, I do really like the optic. If you guys have any questions, you can post them down below in the comments section, or you can post them at any of my other social media that you see here on my screen. Speaking of social media, we all know there's a lot of censorship out there, and YouTube, even if you're a subscriber, isn't showing you my videos all the time. So if you want to ensure you see my videos, sign up for my email list that you see here on your screen. You can sign up there. And basically once or twice a month, all the email, or rather all the videos since the previous email get sent out. So that way there's no giant social media company censoring my content from your eyes. And we also have a daily deals email. So should these go on sale or something like that, they'll get sent out in our daily deals email, which pretty much goes out once a day at the link that you see here on your screen is where you can sign up for that. So that's pretty much all I got, guys. Thanks for watching. I truly appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing everybody for the next video.